WNST. But Alan McCallum is here. I'm a little loopy after a Orioles sweep of the first-place Cleveland Indians, and I should say the first-place Baltimore Orioles, now entertaining the Colorado Rockies, here to talk all things Orioles and hopefully some prosperity where there has been none in Cleveland. We welcome Alan McCallum, and hey, man, prosperity for this team is having starting pitching go out there and be better than we thought it could be in the last couple of weeks at least, right?
It's been a weird week, Nest. I mean, it started off after the All-Star break late last week with facing teams like the Rays and the Yankees, and you think, well, these are teams even on the road that the Orioles should be able to get healthy against, and a combination of pitching woes and injuries and, teams rising up, particularly the Yankees, made the road trip feel a little worse than it could have been. That said, given the number of guys they had out, 3 and 4, I guess, isn't horrible. And then you see them come home against a first-place team that you're expecting to play well, and they beat up on them a little bit here. And, the pitching feels more stable. I don't know if it actually is. I mean,
yeah, maybe just for one turnaround. I don't know what we're going to really get out of Dylan Bundy. I don't know. I mean, I don't know really what we're going to get out of Sunday's starter, who has become, quite frankly, especially with the orange glasses. I think Vance Worley's becoming my new favorite Oriole. I haven't declared a favorite Oriole since Vladimir Guerrero. I don't think so. I need to declare one. I'm going with Worley right now.
It's hard to gauge them. Worley has done an outstanding job out of the bullpen all year, sort of your quintessential long reliever, and it's hard not to believe that he won't be exposed in the rotation. But, hey, here's why it feels better. It feels better because it's not 3 walks back-to-back-to-back or hit batters the way it was with Wright and Ubaldo Jimenez. At least you feel like there might be, in theory, a chance to win, a chance to keep the team in the game in 2 significant spots in the rotation, and that goes a long way. And then there's another piece. With Matt Wieters being out, Caleb Joseph's been behind the plate, and it has been very true over the last 2.5 seasons that when Caleb's behind the plate, the pitching looks better. I don't know what that means. Maybe that's just too small a sample size.
Well, we spent most of last year talking about that fact, right?
Yeah.
You and I did, Luke and I did. I'm sure Buck and Dan did too, right? And that probably all factored into when the phone rang last winter and they said, Wieters did what?
Right.
They were very, capable and willing to move on from Wieters and go with Joseph because he's good behind the plate, because the pitchers like him, because they've had good success with him back there.
And there's no doubt who is the better offensive player is. What the lineup looks like better. Caleb has not had a great offensive year by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, one of them's making $16 million. I hope he's hitting the ball a little, right?
Right.
Just saying.
When you have the kind of explosive offense potentially the Orioles have on a regular basis, to have one guy in a spot who's trying to find his way while if he is in fact helping the pitching be better and more consistent, I think this club can live with that. So, facing going against the first-place team like Cleveland Indians, who'd been hot for a good little while here, I was surprised by how unimpressive they actually looked, particularly offensively through the course of the weekend. But the Orioles handle a business, and you hope they can certainly keep that going through the course of the next stretch here.
Bottom line, the most important thing that's going to happen this week is that someone, somewhere, somebody's going to come through with one of those Jim Palmer throwbacks for me because I bought a ticket. I walked up to the stadium. They were out of them, so I'm without right now, Alan. So anybody out there who wants to sell me a Palmer throwback, nasty at WNST.net. I won't tell Mr. Angelos where I got it, just be between you and I. But, what a weekend, right? I mean, the hot weather, the pitching matchups certainly did not favor the Orioles. The way they played in New York and the illness and the stomach bugs and all of that stuff. But more than that, I hear the horn of something magic happens. Every night there's a different star. That's the magic of Oriole baseball. We got to talk about Nolan Reimold at least a little bit, right? And probably talk about Rickard and talk about Kim because they're all sort of this Renicky-Lowenstein thing going on here in 2016, right? But certainly that was right up there with a Renicky big fly for Nolan Reimold, right?
It was a magic moment. There's no doubt about it. Of all the guys on the team, probably the guy, maybe not Tim, but of almost everybody else, the guy you don't want to fall behind and then, trying to have him chase is Nolan Reimold, because he does have power and he has a great eye and he is patient. So if you fall behind him in a situation like that and you're going to groove one, he has the power to take you out. I feel bad for Nolan. I feel like he's sort of the forgotten man in the 25-man roster right now.
Well, he would have been on the baseball card back in 10 and 11 as the future star, right? In the three panel, right? And it just hasn't happened, right? I mean, but a pie in the face for him after the game. He's watched a lot of other guys get pies in the face, man, right?
Yeah, and look, I mean, with Kim and Rickard on the DL right now, they have to give him more of an opportunity. He's coming off the bench. They're playing Bourbon ahead of him. And obviously he's been in a slump. But, I mean, let's look at what happened. He came into the season really hot, and they played Joey Rickard all the time.
Well, he was their best player in Sarasota, right?
Pretty much,
right.
Other than Rickard. And they're playing Trumbo, so he was spotty. And then if you looked at his stats for the first half of the season, where he continued to play well, the numbers said he was better against right-handers, but Buck would never play him against right-handers. He's playing him against lefties. So as he started to cool off, and it was just about what the statistics said, he went into a slump and Buck wouldn't play him. But the numbers through the course of the season have said he's been hitting right-handers really well. So I feel like he's sort of been forced into a slump, so to speak, with the way he's been used. But certainly a magic moment, a big moment for him today. We know Kim's coming back soon. We don't know, what the prognosis is on Rickard's thumb, but hopefully an at-bat like that gets him some more playing time coming down stretch here.
Alan McCallum is our Orioles insider and historian here at WNST.net. We welcome him back onto the program to talk some happy news Orioles baseball. I want to get back to the Orioles in a minute, but I want to go to baseball because I can't let this Chris Sale thing come and go. I've chatted with Luke about it. I've chatted with Chris Pike about it. Hell, I even chatted with my pal Darryl Ryder out in Cleveland on the back end of the Indians, who loves baseball as well. Of all of the insubordination that I've ever heard of from an athlete, other than something where it's money related or real in the heat of battle, like in the middle of a baseball fight, or Manny Machado and Donaldson, or Manny Machado and, whomever, right? Knucklehead out in Kansas City throwing at guys' heads, the whole deal. I understand that sort of fire. I really think you need some sort of psychological evaluation if you're going to go in with scissors and cut up throwback jerseys. I mean, I just have never heard of such a thing. This wouldn't have been acceptable at Milford Mill High back in your era. It would not have been acceptable at Dundalk or Halliburton or even Colgate for me. I just think in the last week, America has, at least half America has become a 5-year-old. But certainly Chris Sale, I don't know what that was, and I don't even know how to portray it. I just know I know how he pitches, but I wouldn't want him on my team. I wouldn't want to bet my ranch on Chris Sale. That's all I'm going to say.
I don't know, Ness. Once Tough Fuzzy became the logo at Milford Mill in the late '80s, I'm not sure we would have willingly gone back to
that little green bastard. I remember him. Yes,
Mr. Miller. In all seriousness, look, I remember Greg Olson after blowing a save on throwback jersey that day against the Twins, ripping off his jersey and throwing it in the trash can at Memorial Stadium. I remember that story.
I do remember that. It was a '66 jersey too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
It was.
And the first game, the Twins had come in on a 15-game winning streak.
See, this is why I bring you on, dude, because, there is some – I call you Orioles historian, and you may go – but, dude, I remember the Olsen thing, but I didn't remember it until you just re-remembered it for me, right?
The Twins came into Memorial Stadium on a 15-game win streak. That was the year they won. It's 91. And Randy Milligan, the first game of the series, hit double to walk off the game for the Orioles. And then the last game of that series, it was a Thursday afternoon game, I'm pretty sure. And they had the lead going into the ninth, and Greg Olson just blew up and then went into the clubhouse and ripped off his jersey and threw it in the trash can, never to be seen again. Look, it seems to
By
me.
the way, that's in the Ted Patterson book. So I have the I have the Google page from the '99 book on this one. On this day, turn back the clock day, commemorating the '66 World Champion Orioles. The Twins down 4-3, score 5 runs in the ninth off Greg Olson, 3 wild pitches in the throwing era, as 44,742 looked on in disbelief at an 8-4 loss. Olson tore off his throwback jersey and stuffed in the trash barrel after the game. It was his first and only time Olson lost at Memorial Stadium. You know what? Otter is my friend on Facebook, and I am going to imply him right now on the Facebook thread and see what happens. So go ahead.
All I can tell you is you're welcome. Look, I remember before the season the whole thing with the kids in the clubhouse and Chris Sale mouthing off about that. And, that seemed at the time like, team unity for a player that he had respect for, but that it seemed like an over-the-top response. There clearly seems to me that there's something else going on with him, and I'm sure it doesn't help that that the team is bad after getting off to a great start, the disappointment of a season that's lost or seemingly lost at this point, all the trade rumors, trying to decide whether you want to stay with a team that keeps ending up going nowhere. Maybe it was just an emotional response to the frustration of the things that are going on in the course of the season. Maybe it's a visceral opportunity to tell your management, I want out, so I'm going to do something big at a time when they're saying, they're telling clubs that they have no intention of trading Chris Sale.
I mean, it's kind of outrageous, though, right?
It's completely outrageous. It's not only outrageous, it's frankly dangerous and violent. I mean, if you want to just put it at its truest statement, it's a violent thing to do. To have scissors in your hand, ripping up clothes because whatever the
didn't
case
like
is.
the collar. He didn't want to wear the collar. That's what it was, literally.
Right. So that certainly doesn't. It would give me pause if I'm getting ready to give up every positive thing in my farm system for him, because as good as he is, and he's a poor man's Randy Johnson in every sense of the word of the idea. That the truth about him is he is so wiry, so gangly. You do fear the way he throws, and mechanically he's really unsound. You do feel like at some point he's going to throw up a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, and his elbow is going to beat the ball to the plate. Between that and blow-ups like this, if you're going to trade away the farm to get him, you have to really have some pause, and you have to be prepared. And you want to have a good environment in your clubhouse. Let's put it this way: if you want it to be the 2016 Oriole clubhouse and not the 2003 Oriole clubhouse that he's walking into, because players that are that emotional, that fiery, often need a stability base of quality people around them to make it through.
Alan McCallum talking all things baseball and Orioles baseball. And look, Chris Sale's going to be a part of this week, right? And a lot of other guys, whether it's Beltran, we went through the names last week, and Chapman and Miller, amongst others with the Yankees. News is going to happen this week. What are your expectations of the Orioles and this Jimenez-Upton thing? I don't kind of get it, but I don't know how it necessarily makes the Orioles better. But I would hear it because Ubaldo Jimenez isn't going to make them better.
I would be more than happy to move bad contract for bad contract if it means getting Ubaldo Jimenez, who I'm sure is the nicest guy in the world. Ness. I don't doubt that for a second. But there comes a point when if you can move a contract like that, that would probably be the most positive thing that Duquette's done as the GM in quite a while. Is Melvin Upton as good a player as DJ was when he left Tampa? No. But he's good defensively. He can come up with a big hit. And I think playing in a smaller park like Camden Yards as opposed to San Diego would be a big boost for him. It's certainly a better hitter's situation, whether it was Atlanta when he first signed or San Diego. Camden Yards, I think, sort of fits his game a little more. Do I think that he's exactly what the Orioles need? No, but I'd rather have his headache, so to speak, than Ubaldo Jimenez. And I think it probably gives them a little more payroll flexibility for the coming season, quite frankly, in terms of the pitching aspect, to see what they can do to try to replace him. I think, barring injury, we can look at next year's rotation and say, okay, Tillman's going to be there, Gosman's going to be there, Gallardo's going to be there, and they're going to give Bundy every opportunity to earn his way. But that still leaves another spot, and whether that's truly finding a number 5 star or going higher than that, maybe pushing Gallardo into that spot, which is probably the best for him right now. Moving Ubaldo Jimenez, I think, gives them much more flexibility in terms of the roster, maybe not financially, but in terms of the roster and how they're going to set things up. So, I mean, if they can do that, by all means. Beyond that, I don't know. I mean, they just don't have a ton that you necessarily want to move, because what little they do have, you think they're already short in their farm system, and moving any bit like that makes it much harder to continue to build, which is, again, as I've said to you many, many times, why Duquette handles his business the way it does makes no sense to me. It really starts to eat away at your farm system, which is not the strongest to begin with. At best, they have one good move in them, and it's not going to be an elite move. They just aren't that team to do that.
But a Gerardo Parra kind of pickup is really not. Why even bother to some degree? I don't mean to be flippant.
And look at the number Zach Davies is putting up in Milwaukee right now. I mean, he's not having an all-star season, but he's having a very successful season as a young pitcher. You would have loved to have seen that kind of talent to help augment where Mike Wright and Tyler Wilson frankly failed. We'd love to see what he would have been able to do here, but that's not available. And giving away another player from a farm system that just doesn't have much doesn't feel like a thing that makes them very, very much sense. The difference between last year and this year is that they actually do have a chance to get into the postseason and do something. So you really need to make that move right now. But
the shame of it's Gonzalez is getting guys out, right? I mean, Wei and Chen, I know he was a more expensive option, but at least you knew it. Getting guys out, maybe not at the rate you wanted to earlier in the year, but the Marlins are very much in it. I mean, they've had pitchers here,
Yes.
They have, and they've let them get away, or they've refused to sign them,
They've let them go or given them away. And again, I will say to you, people keep asking why keep bringing up Jake Arrieta, and the answer is it's not just Jake Arrieta, it's all of the other people that, again, not necessarily all-stars. He's the cream of the crop, but
throw Rodriguez in there too, right? So
right, you look at people that they've given away, and at the moments when they gave them away, again, giving him to the Red Sox isn't a horrible thing because they actually had a chance to win, and Andrew Miller made sense. Knowing that you're not going to re-sign him, that's another debate. But at least you're doing it in a moment when your team actually has a chance to win. But giving away Jake Arrieta or giving away Zach Davies for Gerardo Parra in years when you did nothing in the offseason to put you in a situation to win, and your team does not honestly have a chance to win. It's about taking a look at what's realistic and trying to decide. And in 2 of the last 4 years, when Duquette did nothing in the offseason, it made no sense to do it, and it's put the team behind. They are in a position to win this year, clearly. So you look at it and say, well, it really does make sense to do it. But, man, if they had just spent a little bit more money in the offseason or made smarter moves or kept someone that could have helped them, where would they be right now, and how much less pressure would they have on them to make that kind of move?
Alan McCallum joining us here, talking all things Orioles baseball as the trading deadline around the corner. The first-place Baltimore Orioles now entertaining the Colorado Rockies. This wasn't what they had in mind with interleague play, but I'm going to have a few beat writers on over the next couple of days. Dude, I don't know a damn thing about the Colorado Rockies, and of all the teams last year on the tour, they treated me the worst. They were
really?
Absolutely. Well, the Nationals were the worst. The Orioles. Well, okay. Of all the teams where there wasn't some sort of inside fix, the Rockies were the worst. So I have a particular disdain for the Rockies sort of built in. But I literally am going up and down their roster, and I literally haven't heard of most of these guys now that Tulowitzki's gone, right?
You know more about them than you think. You know that Trevor Story's having a big year at shortstop.
I do know that, yes.
I think he just broke the shortstop rookie record for home runs in the rookie season. Nolan Arenado is the National League version of Manny Machado and is a stud third baseman and has big power. Carlos Gonzalez is a guy who has tremendous talent but gets hurt too much. But when he's healthy, he's as good as anybody. Gerardo Parra, who's on that team?
Yes, I do. That's right. I forgot he was there, but he is there,
yeah.
yes.
So,
I wonder what happened.
You know more than you think.
Well, I mean, we're going to get a handful of this and then back out onto the road. For you, obviously trending up for the Orioles over the weekend. There's a lot of good news. There was also some sloppy baseball too, right? I mean, they've kind of gotten away with it a little bit. There have been some base running things. There have been some decisions. There's been some, how many strikes do I have on me?
Yeah.
I mean, stuff that, like, it just Buck doesn't like the unforced error in that way, right? It's one thing to kick the ball around on a bad hop or lose the ball in the sun or give up a home run or swing at a pitch over your head once in a while. But, boy, not knowing the count, not knowing how many outs, wow, that's not something Buck likes.
So on Sunday, they played like they hadn't had an all-star break and a few days off in and around that for some of those players. Jonathan Scope was a hero and a GOAT. Chris Davis, not only did Chris Davis look stupid for himself, but he created a situation for Manny Machado, who is known to have brain farts on the bases, looked stupid as well. They looked like they were tired day game after night game for sure on Sunday, and you hope that was just a blip. Hope they got it all.
And it was 101 degrees, too. So, I mean, but I mean.
That is very true.
But they are paid professionals. I mean, Manny Machado is going to make $400 million playing baseball. Chris Davis is going to make $200 million playing baseball. Dude, know the count. Not most of the time, all the time. Know where you are on the field, know the situation all the time. I mean, I learned that in Little League. Know the situation, right? I mean, that's why coaches would bark at you when you were 8 years old.
I completely agree, but I allow for people to be human, and you think every once in a while somebody's going to make a mistake like that, so be it. And quite frankly, if it's going to happen, I'd rather have them all do it in one day and win the game. So, I mean, great. But, Chris Davis, who we debated this all up and down last offseason, Chris Davis is having a Chris Davis year. At some point, Chris Davis is going to hit 6 home runs again in a span of 10 days and driving 15 to 20 runs in that period, and he will be the greatest thing since sliced bread. But when Chris goes through these stretches where he's 1 for 29 with 18 strikeouts, and he does that sort of wavy swing of the bat where clearly he has no idea and he's tired of trying to figure it out, and he just kills the lineup over and over and over again. It's hard to watch him in those moments. You think about that money that could have been dispensed to Wei-Yin Chen or Doug Fister or, pick a guy, and it's hard to not think about that, particularly the way he and Scott Boras in particular, talked about him being the most elite first baseman on the market. Now, what has been constant through this year, Chris Davis is having a great defensive year at first base, and has shown himself after 2012 to consistently be one of the upper echelon defensive first basemen in the game.
You know what I compared him to, Alan, was Melvin Mora. Like, in the modern era, I didn't see this as much with Weaver, right, or many moons ago, where a guy would come up and really sort of be considered a subpar fielder. In Stratomatic, we'd call him a 3 or maybe a 4, and will himself into being a 1 or a 2. Melvin Mora certainly did that at third base, and we saw how ugly it was in the beginning and how good it was in the end. Chris Davis is on that level at this point, and I can't think of many more, that we would say, you talk about Caleb Joseph's defensive prowess and all that, but he kind of came with that reputation a little bit. So did Scope. I mean, we're not shocked that Scope or Machado were good fielders. They were always considered to be that. Chris Davis wasn't. Melvin Mora wasn't. And it really does say something when a guy makes himself better at this level. That really shows, and you don't see it often. You don't see Sherman Obando or Cheeto Martinez or Mark Trumbo suddenly become plus outfielders. It just doesn't happen,
No question. And I have great respect for guys that remake themselves that way. And Chris Davis has clearly put the work in. I have great respect for that. And he's also a great base runner. When he's on the bases, he's big and he's not slow. When he gets going, he can get going pretty well. But he's also a solid base runner. I have great respect for his game in terms of the intangibles. But just as an offensive player, he goes through these stretches, and fortunately, at home anyway, they're playing well enough to sort of weather that storm. But they do need to get him going, and you need to see him particularly as you get further into the season, there are going to be periods where other players are going to slump, and so he's going to need to do his part. But right now, it does. He looks ugly, and it's hard to watch that right now from the low side of what's going on for them.
Alan McCallum is our Orioles historian. He is watching the first-place Baltimore Orioles. Alan, you notice how I'm sliding that in a little more often here these days. And, it's starting, honestly, to, roll off the tongue. I'm starting to get spoiled with it. Kind of like when the Ravens won the Super Bowl. I could say world champions for, a year. It never gets old. So, every day I can say the first-place Orioles. I'm going to do that. Hey, Red Sox and Blue Jays coming to get them this week, you think? I don't know that the Blue Jays are going to pull any big triggers. It feels to me like they pulled a lot last year. I would see the Indians, who were in here this weekend, who clearly need some help in the bullpen, and probably another bat. Obviously, Texas is out there. Houston may be very much in a conversation at this point. If I were an Astros fan, I would expect them to be out there trying to get their Chapman or their whomever that they would want to bolster their team, or Beltran for that matter. There's some competition out in the marketplace. Things are going to happen this week. It's going to be an exciting week, I think.
No question. And look, I wouldn't put anything past the Red Sox. They're always going to, while they have the opportunity to do it, to win, and they've shown themselves even this year willing to make those sacrifices. So can they do more? Sure. What it will be, I don't know. The Blue Jays, they need to do something. I think the Red Sox are poised to get this thing done with what they have right now. But and that's even still with what I would consider a weakened amount of starting pitching. Their bullpen's still pretty good, and they can score with anybody. But the Blue Jays, I don't know. I don't know what they have. Their farm system. I think they've given some away to get the pieces they had last year. As you mentioned, they'd done it the few years before in the R.A. Dickey trade and bringing some pieces in. And from a payroll standpoint, whether they bring both of them back or one, you would imagine they're going to try and want to bring one the guys back in Encarnacion Bautista. And if they don't, then they need to replace them. So they're in a precarious place right now where they're going to have to make a decision about, do they really believe this to be the year? And while they've been a good team, I don't know. They're certainly not the same team that they were last season.
Well, this time last season, they weren't that team, right? It's kind of like the Indians. They kind of became that team right around now, right?
But even in the first half, they were putting up big numbers, and they looked like they could run away with it, and then they made some moves to put them over the top.
But they have no fear of the Orioles and the Red Sox in September. Toronto could easily go 15-5 to end the season and go on a tear when they need to. These teams are so bunched up that when they play each other, it's going to be a BFD come September when these teams are starting to lock up and seeing each other, 3 times a week, every week for a month, right?
September is going to be if it stays bunched the way it is now, September is going to be a very interesting month. The one thing that is good is, and we've talked about it, the Orioles, who got destroyed for a decade in their own division, do not have that problem anymore. And, maybe short of the Blue Jays over the last 2 years, they can go toe-to-toe with anybody.
Look, man, Toronto ends the season with 3 against the Orioles and 3 against the Red Sox. That's the last week of the season. That's their matchup. So, certainly the last week looks
winner
to be,
take all.
Yeah, at some point, if they're all 2 games apart, everything's going to matter at that point, for sure.
And that's all you can ask for, right? That's what you want to see, your team fighting for it in September. It's great when you have a 10-game lead like they did in 14, and you don't have to worry. But exciting baseball in September is all you can ask for, particularly from a team whose starting pitching ERA is the second worst in the American League, and they yet still have first place hold on their division.
Should I book my flight to Fenway after that Ravens opener against the Bills on the 11th? The Orioles play in Fenway on the 12th, 13th, and 14th. That could be delicious, my man, right?
I think you should, yeah. Why not?
Yeah, man, let's go all in. Let's get a flight to Foxborough. To Boston. I'm mixing up my sports already. Alan, well, relax, man. They're in first place. It's going to be a great week. We got relevant baseball for, these 21, 22 years I've been knowing you. It's all we can ask for here as we enter August, right?
Good times, and there are certainly ups and downs through the course of the season, and they just came out of a down and finished surprisingly with a sweep over a team that you wouldn't have expected to have happen right now. So let's see what happens when they go back into interleague play here over the next little while.
Rocking and rolling. There he is, Alan McCallum. You can reach him, Alan, at WNST.net. He's also out on Facebook, and his band, E.M. Spencer, putting it together for you. You can find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We come in crystal clear anywhere you are. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Taos in Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.